you still get nervous when you have a new album coming out? What people think?
Yeah, I mean, I try and pay no attention to critical response to a record, but I find it very difficult, I have to say.
This is just such an inconsistent, lackluster, and almost uninspired album from Damon and company.
And I do end up reading generally bad reviews.
After all those successes and years and
I still get really depressed and miserable and start doubting my validity as not only as an artist but as a human being.
Gorillaz has never been the type of band to shy away from the arena of politics, but following the release of their most recent album, I've realized that very politics has taken a sidestep. If you saw my first video covering Gorillaz, I explored the politics surrounding the band and analyzed the content of their album titled Humans. Needless to say, I was disappointed on how obvious the album was in delivering its message, compared to their other abstract records such as Demon Days and Plastic Beach, and also how seemingly messy the album itself sounded. What I've learned within the past year is that Gorillaz has become more quirkier and more humble as a band, and even better at songwriting and describing issues than ever before. However, the ideas that the Now Now suggests to the listener offers a very limited role in politics in exchange for an abstract narrative that completes itself throughout the album. This is all according to me, of course. Damon Albarn has created the ultimate summer bummer album. Now don't take the term bummer the wrong way, because this is a good thing, in a sadistic type of way. What I mean by this is that the record is both sweet and melancholy, with its 80s type of aesthetic and ballads. In other words, it's funky, but it's also sad. Before I analyze this album, let me just remind the audience that this is my own interpretation of the songs within the record. It'll likely be different from yours, and if it is, that's a-okay. If you agree or disagree, feel free to comment below. Don't take my analysis as 100% fact on this particular art piece. In any case, here's Damon Albarn and Jamie Hewlett's The Now Now. In all honesty, I'm so much happier without you. I've never felt so free to do whatever I want, whenever I want to do it. Thanks so much for exiting my life. You have no idea the giant favor you did me. On May 31st, 2018, Humility was released as the lead single for the Now Now. Despite it only being barely over 1 year since the release of Humans, the band released a new track for an upcoming album, which was an odd thing for Gorillaz to do, as their CDs usually take around 5 or so years to complete. And no, I don't really count The Fall because that was made on Damon's iPad in the time span of like a month, and wasn't a studio project. Also, it wasn't really that good. Humility greets the listener as a vibrant opener to the record that's perfect for the summer. But once one looks deeper into said lyrics, it is discovered that Tootie is singing about a world needing to escape its growing isolation. This is one of the few times where I believe the album gets political, and here's why. The two most major elections in the year 2016 resulted in outcomes highly influenced by populism. That is, of course, the concept of nations needing to become more nationalistic in order to benefit their own standings upon the globe. Of course, this can be a scary thing, as what Tootie insinuates is that when countries grow more isolated, other dangerous entities will appear that can wreak havoc upon society if no one tries to stop them. Think of the post-World War I world, for instance. I believe there's a good example that involves this one dude named Hitler and too much nationalism within a country. I'm pretty sure it resulted in one of the deadliest conflicts known to man. With that in mind, I must also express the real message behind this album and where it's going to take us. It is in my own opinion that this album is about various relationships throughout someone's life, and how people can be insincere to each other. Humility explores the topic of being better off without a certain someone, and this is where I'm going to have to get a little into the complicated Gorillaz lore. To keep things brief, in the Gorillaz canon, band member Murdoch is sent to jail prior to the release of the Now Now, and is replaced by Ace from the Powerpuff Girls.
Hey kid, watch out! Whoop, sorry! Whoop, sorry! Whoop, sorry! Whoop, sorry!
Yeah, it's weird, I know, but we're talking about a cartoon band here, so I wouldn't take it too seriously. Throughout Gorillaz history, Murdoch is seen time and time again as a bully towards Tootie, and in some instances even takes him for granted. Without that certain someone holding them back, the singer feels free and is able to do much more with their lives. However, they can't help but feel as if they're still an outcast to society. There are certain points in our lives in which we want to take a break from whatever problem is going on around us, but at some point we need to get out of that mindset and face those problems head on rather than avoid them completely. completely. The final lines of the song detail a possible reconnection with the fallen relationships of the past and fixing things, but at the same time, he also believes that he should just let things be and let the past stay in the past, as he's better off now. I know that feeling, Tootie. In the end of the music video, Russell trips over Tootie as he seems seemingly frustrated at him, perhaps suggesting that Russell is not too keen towards this new attitude Tootie is presenting, and how he's flaking on not making up with Murdoch or saving him from trouble. But Tootie brushes him off and continues to skate. Doing this with my friends makes me feel alive. It's as if we're all sharing a very special moment of euphoria with each other. No one will be able to understand why we do this, but maybe you will. Want to join us on this adventure of joy? I'll take you. So this is the part of the video where I ask the viewer, what do you do for fun on a Saturday night? For Tootie, he parties and commits to drugs or another type of action that is seemingly like a drug that gives him a dopamine effect. In Tranz, Tootie remarks about an effigy that is created following a wild Saturday night with friends, which is a sculpture of a person that is meant to be burned down and destroyed. This effigy is whatever we morph into following the events of a hectic Saturday night. An alter ego, I suppose, that does crazy things. He questions if other people will ever be able to comprehend what he does, as he keeps posing the question if others burn like him. There are certain type of activities that people do that no one will ever seem to understand, no matter whatever the explanation is towards them. If I can make it here, then I can make it anywhere. Southern California is a Garden of Eden. It's a paradise to live in or see. AJJ 2007. Now I may be biased in saying that because I of course live here, but according to Gorillaz, they also love the Southern Californian life too. In Hollywood, Damon describes an area full of luxury and beautiful people. But if one really gets down to it, they discover that Hollywood also holds its fair share of horrors too. In order for the listener to make it to the top and become a star in the city of dreams, they have to make ludicrous sacrifices. The location is filled with crime and its fair share of poverty, but if people were to mention it, it would really kill the whole entire Hollywood is beautiful type of vibe that the neighborhood has going on. When Tootie suggests that Hollywood is alright, it's likely that he's being sarcastic. There has been a false portrait painted of Hollywood and its so-called excellence. Snoop Dogg also appears in this and prescribes a great verse about Hollywood having the ability to transform an individual to do a lot of powerful things. But how likely is it that that very individual will be the listener themselves? It's a depressing question when one really thinks about it. I don't understand. I thought things were going fine, but what happened? When I was in your arms, I truly felt like I was at home, but I guess it's okay. I'll be alright. Really, I'll be fine. I just hope you'll be alright too. No one wants to feel forgotten. In Kansas, Tootie keeps telling himself that he's not going to break down, and that everything is going to be alright in the end, following the emotional destruction of a relationship. He keeps telling himself that he isn't going to cry and that he needs to move on, but something about this said person keeps him from doing so. It is with this significant other that he feels at home with. Interestingly enough, the song is titled Kansas in reference to the Wizard of Oz, and how the character Dorothy wants to go back to her home state, Kansas. The singer wants to go back to who he thought was home. Finding another dream signifies that he could only be with them in his dreams, and that he must move on to another dream in which he could possibly be happy once more. No matter what Tootie does to try and heal himself over this emotional trauma, he is still haunted on what he did and can't help but blame himself. The memory of the fall of grace from your heart represents a tarnished love never to be fixed. In the bridge of the song, Tootie finds out that his love has moved on to someone else, and has forgotten about him, but he hopes with all in his heart that maybe one day they will return and tell them that they are forgiven. And if I was wrong, then I'd disappear. But I'm incapable. Tells us that he'll never be satisfied and reach closure on the relationship. He'll always feel the pain from this, for as long as he lives. Screw the media. I believe in one thing, and one thing only. Myself. Because there's no way in hell I'm going to let these biased forms of news determine how I'm going to interpret life. That's for sure. Okay, so enough with the sappy emotional stuff, and let's get back to the politics. Socererz prescribes the idea of having one's own mind over mass media and not to rely too much on quote-unquote trustworthy news outlets, and to hold one's own inner vision above all. The vocalist tells the audience to try and keep calm through these dark times. I mean, the line "everybody cool down" is self-explanatory. It's the basic idea of treading lightly when it comes to such frustrating emotions one might feel during stressful events. Overall, it's one of my favorite singles from the album, as it offers another chill vibe to the listener. My beautiful home, away from home, that's where I want to be. Think of your favorite location and ask yourself what about it makes you feel so happy and at ease. Idaho is essentially just about the beauty of Idaho. There's no real other deeper meaning to it. While Damon Albarn was touring the United States during his Humans tour, he wrote about the sheer beauty of the state and its long winding roads. Idaho makes one think about a place that is like a second home to them, a place that one only wishes to share with a certain group of people who are near and dear to their hearts. They hate it. They absolutely hate it.
I'm wondering, is everyone involved trying as hard as they possibly can to make this record the best Gorillaz album that it can be? If only more tracks actually changed things up a little bit and didn't try to just give us one groove, one beat, one idea and just do it to death, that you'd have songs that are weakly written, are drab, are underwhelming, because that's how a lot of Damon's recent material, solo and with Blur, has been going.
God, how can I be so naive? Let's talk about the reaction to the album Humans. To fans, it was received with mixed approval, as the elements of the album, although good in concept, resulted into an inconsistent record. It was definitely rough around the edges in certain aspects, and at points it was even frankly unlistenable. Well, at least to me. Damon Albarn realized the divide that Humans caused to the Gorillaz fanbase, so in an effort to try and satisfy a good portion of the community, he released the Now a year later as sort of an apology album of some sorts. In Lake Zurich, a man composes the idea of building a tunnel from Zurich, Switzerland all the way to New York, but is discouraged when he fears the reaction to proposing such a preposterous idea. This tunnel can be used as a metaphor for the album Humans, and may suggest that the Damon knew that the album sounded off compared to other titles in the Gorillaz discography. But after a long night, Damon had decided to eventually finish work on Humans, despite being unsure about it and knowing that there would possibly be negative backlash over it. He knew he would be scrutinized, and above all, discredited as being a reliably solid musician. Although I personally didn't enjoy the album to a high degree, Damon finding the confidence to release something he knew would cause a stir is something I can relate to, and admire. Is it fate that has allowed me to get this far in life? I mean, how is it possible that I have been able to establish such a following that continues to grow each day? I'm just lucky, I suppose. But there has to be something else to it. Something else that allows me to keep chugging along. Oh well. Here's hoping I'm able to enjoy this to its fullest for a long while. This may come as a surprise, but I like to read and write. Hell, developing this video requires a lot of input from other individuals across the net, in order to try and have a varying degree of interpretations of the album, so it shouldn't come as a surprise when I reveal that I like to read other people's analysis on topics. One of my favorite interpreters of Gorillaz music comes from Reddit user Ralph Wiggum8. Ralph offers very detailed, albeit at times overly written, opinions on Gorillaz tracks. For the track Magic City, I consulted one of their posts for inspiration. His analysis on Magic City is one of the most eye-opening pieces I've ever read. He believes that Magic City is about the Las Vegas shooting that occurred in October of 2017, and let me explain his reasoning. Stephen Paddock, the perpetrator of the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman on American soil, committed his attack on an audience of concert-goers on October 1st, 2017, while inside the high penthouse of his hotel room, killing 58 and injuring over 500 individuals. Only a couple days earlier, Paddock had rented a high-rise room while Gorillaz was playing in Las Vegas for their Life is Beautiful concert. Is it perhaps plausible to suggest that Paddock was planning to commit the said atrocity a few days earlier, as Damon Albarn was sinning, but something convinced him not to do it on that particular night? Perhaps he spared mercy to this particular audience and held back on using his various rifles. A couple weeks following the shooting, Albarn toured Miami, also nicknamed as the Magic City. While looking down upon others in the penthouse of his Miami hotel, it occurred to Albon that he had just avoided potential catastrophe at one of his concerts. Ralph suggests that Magic City is about Albon's gamble with fate, and how it can shape all of our lives. If one certain thing had occurred or never occurred in our lives, then perhaps we would be different people. It is not silly to suggest that one day I can be walking down the street and be killed by an oncoming car making a bad turn. That's just life. Fate is something one can never avoid. As for Ralph Wiggum 8 of Reddit, unfortunately he deleted his account for whatever reason. This section of the video is dedicated to you, Ralph, and to wherever you went. I hope that you come back one day. I can't even look at you. I can't even comprehend what you did. What the hell are you even doing here? Did you not think of anyone else? How could I ever view you the same way ever again? Here I thought that at least you were above it all. But I was a fool to think that. Because I don't know you. I don't think I'll ever truly know you. I'm leaving you behind, because there's honestly nothing to look forward for with you. I want you to think that I don't care, but I feel sorry. I just wish I had the guts to cut you off. Because I can't. Eventually, everything must come apart. At one point in our lives, there will be someone we will love and value above everyone else. And at one point in our lives, we will have to deal with the emotional distraught of losing them. Fireflies is about all your fears and anxieties finding you and consuming your well-being. Tootie finds out a certain truth about his partner, or lover he wishes he could get out of his head. The person in the relationship has done something that has changed the way he views them. Perhaps an act of cheating on him or betraying their trust. Thus, the relationship with said person has begun to fade into darkness. The fireflies in which Tootie describes are the bright specks in the relationship that encourage him to try and save the sinking ship, but to what degree? Tootie is uncertain of the person now, but is still somehow drunk in love with them. He knows that this person has flaws and has done unforgiving things, but for some reason, he keeps trying to come back to them. He fails to understand that the other person doesn't value him as much as he loves them. He's foolishly wasting his time. In 1%, Tootie assures the listener that although they may be in the deepest realms of depression and dread, they will be heard by someone. Because although you may feel alone, someone is out there looking out for you, and you will indeed be heard too. Every sound from everyone received. It's at times like these when I just can't help myself. I want to try to talk to you again, I really do, but I fear about doing it because of how you'll react. You've likely moved on and have gotten over me at this point, so there's no real use to it. I try to pretend I'm fine without you, but in all honesty it drives me mad. And I just can't let you go. With you it all seems so simple. In all honesty, I just want this entire summer to end. In the closer to the now titled Souk Eye, Tootie is left wondering about a certain someone and whatever they're doing at that moment. This said person is complicated, but despite their flaws, he wants to come back to them and leave everyone else behind, because it was with them where he felt as if things were right. He feels the need to be forgiven by this person, despite perhaps not even doing anything wrong in the first place. Throughout the rest of his life, he'll always come back to this person, calling them, echoing the opening lines of the album. He wants to be with them for the years to come, despite the storms and the pain it may cause him. However, it is possible that this said person is already long gone and has moved on to bigger and better things far away. For Tootie, it's been a long time without this person, and he can't help but think about them on a consistent basis, as this individual was what made him the man he is today. Without them, he would have been nothing. Perhaps it was silly for me to think that this album was going to be as political as Humans was. The Now Now took a very direct approach on relationships and how difficult they can be to sustain. With its 80s synths and groovy tracks, I hold the Now Now above Humans and maybe even above Plastic Beach, with Souk Eye being my favorite track from the album. Speaking of which, here's my top 5 tracks. As someone who is a huge fan of sad albums filled with despair and angst, Mike Crow's Trust Fund and Weezer's Pinkerton being my favorite records of this type of music, the Now Now serves as a delightful mood album, especially for the summer. I believe Fantano said it best.
It's like a day at the beach, but you're too sad to enjoy it.
The Now Now is a stunning album that is solid all the way through and convinces me that Damon Albarn still has tons of creativity and thought left within him. Thank you all so much for watching. And a special thanks to these 5 for helping me film. Sasha for being awesome. Blake for being Blake. Raymond for being there. Caitlin for providing support. And Ian for continuing on being a good friend. And thanks to Damon for such an incredible record. Wow, hey guys, it's me, Larry. That was a pretty heavy video. I'm sorry. But if you liked it, please share it with your friends. I'd really appreciate it. You can put it on like Facebook, Reddit, Tumblr, whatever. It helps me out a lot. I'll see you guys next time. Later.